Second reading of Bill 58, an act to proclaim March as Endometriosis Awareness Month. I return the floor to Ms. Stiles from Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's try that again. It is really a pleasure to rise today and speak about my bill, Bill 58, a bill to proclaim the month of March Endometriosis Awareness Month in Ontario. Speaker, it was really a wonderful surprise this morning to learn that the government would be bringing this forward to second reading tonight, and that we have, I hope, their support, which I'm looking forward to. I introduced this bill along with my colleague from Toronto Centre, MPP Suze Morrison, originally back at least about a year ago at least, with an aim to draw public attention to this very common and yet often misunderstood and misdiagnosed disease. And I really want to take a moment early on here to thank the many people who have advocated for endometriosis awareness, treatment, government action over the years, especially the great people at Endometriosis Network Canada who are leading this fight across the country, representatives from Endo Act Canada, and countless others, including, I just also want to mention Anusha and Aaron from Endo Advocates, who reached out and showed their support on our online petition and reached out to me with more information, and it was wonderful. I also want to thank my former OLIP intern, Nikki Romano, who did an enormous amount of work to prepare this and reach out to stakeholders. So thank you, Nikki. Speaker, endometriosis is an inflammatory disease that affects 1 in 10 women, trans and non-binary people who menstruate. And it can cause debilitating symptoms and conditions, including chronic pelvic pain, nausea, excessive menstrual pain, and infertility. And the truth is, as I'm going to discuss in my remarks here, that we actually really don't know how many more people are actually suffering from endometriosis because so many people don't get diagnosed, and particularly folks who might be trans or non-binary, that number is probably even higher. With this many people affected, you would think it would be well known, it would be discussed, and that there would be media attention and research and policy around treatment and diagnosis. But this is a disease that is mired in shame and stigma around menstruation. And that stigma and shame, something that's shared by all people who menstruate, including, again, not only women, but also trans and non-binary people, means that many, many people with endometriosis suffer for years before they even seek help. And they are often misdiagnosed, dismissed by the medical system. Often that goes on, as I said, for years, and unfortunately some are never diagnosed at all. It's really unfortunate, Speaker, because the impact of endometriosis on the quality of life of a person, on their self-esteem, is massive. And honestly, if that wasn't enough reason for us to start taking this disease seriously, the impact on a person's ability to work, attend school, it is costly to families, communities, and yes, to our economy. In fact, research shows that endometriosis costs the Canadian economy at least $1.8 billion every year, with adult sufferers often forced to miss work due to pain, and youth sufferers often falling behind in their studies due to missing school. Speaker, this is an issue that is very personal for many people, and it's hard to talk about. I mean, I actually have to say, a little part of me has brought forward a lot of bills related to menstruation and stuff because I get a great joy out of talking about it here, because it has been something that we assign such stigma to for so many years, and I think we as elected officials and people in the public realm have a real responsibility to sort of try to change that. I can tell you that I have been contacted by many, many endo sufferers over the last 3 years, and since my election in 2018, when the first action I took was bringing yellow ribbons into this House, and we received a unanimous consent to allow everybody to wear those ribbons in recognition of Endo Awareness Week, I believe. And that was really, ever since then, I've received a lot of emails and contact from other endo sufferers. People who've often suffered decades in excruciating pain, who have other really terrible symptoms, and they've talked to me a lot about how those symptoms have gotten worse and worse. Some of them have had difficulty conceiving, they've had difficult pregnancies, they've had miscarriages, many had to leave their jobs, had to leave school. And what's astonishing is not only that there aren't any real answers out there, there's no solutions, there's no prevention, but the lack of knowledge and awareness compounds all of those issues. Indeed, most people who experience the pain and the effects of endo find themselves going to multiple doctors, numerous times, told to deal with it by using often just over-the-counter medications, even when they're dealing with, again, chronic, debilitating pain. The stories I hear are of being brushed off, dismissed. And of course, for most people, they have this pain and they may not even know what's normal pain. So when someone says, oh, it's normal, just pop an Advil, they think, okay, maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't have a high enough pain tolerance. And Speaker, it's not just unfortunate that that happens, it's actually dangerous, because endometriosis, as I've said, radically impacts not only quality of life, but also can result in very serious conditions, including stroke. I gotta tell you, Mr. Speaker, this has been my experience. As a young teenager, it made it almost impossible for me to go to school. As an athlete, it was debilitating. And my condition was really not, I have to say, as serious as that experienced by so many. But notwithstanding that, and despite many, many attempts to get care, to find solutions, I wasn't actually diagnosed until I was 30. And it's not like I hadn't tried to find help, like so many other people do. The fact is that the average diagnosis takes at least 5, usually more like 7 years, and much, much higher, because that's not even counting the many people who just don't get a diagnosis. And of course, that can go on for most of their life. Many of these folks often have also parents or grandparents, moms, grandmothers, who also had that same intense pain, and so people tell them that it's just normal. It's just your lot in life. Well, it's not. I have a message for people out there who are experiencing that kind of intense pain, and especially to young people. Don't let anyone tell you that it's normal, or don't let anybody dismiss that. Painful periods are not normal, and that's not normal. It's not okay, and you have a right to treatment and care, and to have a health care provider listen to you. Speaker, it's time the healthcare system stopped neglecting this disease. And don't just take it from me, take it from the experts, doctors, specialists, researchers who are advocating for more resources. Doctors who specialize have massive waiting lists. I talked to one doctor here who always has at least a waiting list of 500 people who are just looking for first consults, and that's at Mount Sinai. It's not just here in Ontario, of course. Canada is far behind other countries when it comes to diagnosing and treating this condition. But the resources and the care, it needs to come from the province. That's why, as I said, Speaker, I'm really thrilled for this opportunity, because I think that with awareness can come pressure to take action, and we need to do much more than we're doing currently. I just wanted to mention some of the other folks, as I mentioned earlier, who come to me, who are endo sufferers, who are advocating for action from government. And a couple of things that they've mentioned to me is, we need to put in place a province-wide action plan with actionable targets. We need better OHIP coverage for endo care. I mean, these are just a few of the things. Something else that I feel really passionately about is we need to expand education of children and youth to include endometriosis and what constitutes a normal period in the curriculum in our schools. Actually, in BC right now, the BC Women's Hospital is partnering with one of the school boards to pilot a curriculum course that includes endometriosis. So they're updating their sexual health curriculum to include endometriosis and what is a normal period. And they're finding that so much learning and awareness is coming. Because remember that for people who have their period, at least 10% of folks are truly suffering with endometriosis in that moment. And it starts young. I mean, it often starts like when you're a young teenager. That's a really high percentage of the population who could really use this information to improve their lives, and if not their lives, the lives of the people who they care about, and their family and their social circle. And that means also people who don't menstruate, so boys. right? It means that they might actually benefit from knowing more about this. They can help people in their lives. Speaker, I want to thank everyone who's going to speak today in advance. I want to thank the government House Leader for encouraging this conversation. The time that we have here as legislators is really, really precious, and I've been honored to use my role to bring forward issues that affect women and everybody out there who menstruates, be it by advocating to end period poverty in our schools, and also to raising awareness about endometriosis. It's really an important first step, and I'm proud to be able to bring this forward. So thank you, and let's pass this bill.